have the same emotional, we inherently have the same emotional basis and the same emotions that creates the same emotional conditions for everyone. So when it comes to criminals versus us, every dark trait that we see inside of a criminal is coming from a psychological and emotional base that exists inside of all of us. Okay? Now, this doesn't mean that all of us will commit crimes and that all of us would do things like murder. Because the urge to commit certain crimes is coming from a, or the strong urge to commit certain crime is related to a few things, and one of them is trauma and the level of trauma that an individual may have experienced in their childhood relative to certain things that may cause them to be more or less volatile to or more or less prone to have these strong urges to commit certain crimes. Now, in this life, this darkness that comes from our emotional base that exists inside of all of us is not understood for what it is. It is not understood as a inherent darkness that came about from us having an ego and us going through trauma, and we all went through trauma, and so it automatically lead to us being having a dark side and having an ego that expresses itself in dark ways. So this is not understood. This is, people interpret this side of us as being evil, and they condemn it and they perceive it as evil. And from a justice system point of view, from a justice system perspective, these become crimes, and the things that come, the actions, the negative actions that come from this darkness are seen as crimes according to the justice system. Now, because these crimes, the so-called evil, the emotional base that they come from, are all condemned along with this egotistical need to be right and a need to be good. The rest of us who aren't criminals have dissociated and denied that part of us and that part of our emotional base that has the potential to commit crimes. Now, the fact that we have dissociated and denied and ultimately suppressed this inherent darkness inside of us, it means, we've suppressed it and hide it so far deep down in our consciousness, or should I say unconsciousness, subconsciousness really, that it seems like it doesn't exist anymore. You suppress things so far down in your being, you don't have any conscious aware of it, so it seems like it doesn't exist anymore. But it still exists, and it has to go somewhere, meaning it has to express itself in some way, in some form. It has to come through your personality and through your being and express itself in some form. It's like energy. It has to find somewhere to go and some way to express itself. The way we express this energy and this darkness, we express it unconsciously. And we do it by condemning the actual criminals. And by condemning these criminals, we get to separate ourselves from that darkness inside of us, and separate ourselves from the criminals. And when we do this, it's a way to divert the negative attention and the darkness attention and the potential of us being criminals and being even killers away from, I divert that attention away from us, and so we get to convince ourselves and or other people that we cannot do certain horrible things that criminals do. So, being that we all have the same psychological makeup and the same emotional bases, there is a potential killer inside of all of us. But we don't want this to be true, and we don't know it is true consciously. But this killer instinct, it has to express itself in some way. Okay, so what we do to express it is we live it out by killing and wanting to kill and wanting to imprison the actual active criminals. If we kill like the killers, then we will be killers. So when we put the killer to death or in prison, we get to knock out three birds with one stone. We get to kill, i.e., suppress and deny and hide the killer inside of us by killing the actual killer. It's a symbolic thing, you see. And thus, we also get to, again, divert the negative attention from ourselves. And number three, we get to live out our darkness, the darkness and the inherent killer inside of us, okay, by killing the killer. Now, when it comes to justice, right? When people are seeking justice and when people support the idea of justice and when people are asking for justice, they are doing this very process that I'm explaining here. They are hiding their own darkness by diverting the negative attention onto someone else. And they get to carry out a revenge in a very justified way and a socially acceptable way. It's revenge nonetheless. So ultimately, justice is revenge. It's a revenge in a socially acceptable way and in a way where it's not going to seem biblically wrong. So justice is revenge. It is, and people seek revenge for a few reasons: to take back the power from the obvious perpetrator. Number two, to be right and to be good ones in the situation. Like if you take back the revenge, then it's justified. So you get to be good, because you're doing something that is justified. So you are not like the perpetrator, and that's why you're doing it to somehow the revenge, that is, i.e., justice in this case. And the revenge is also a tactic of manipulation to get the perpetrators to understand our pain. It's like this is what revenge, a big part of what revenge is about, on a deep subconscious psychological level. It's that we need people to understand our pain, and we need the people who hurt us to understand our pain, but we don't want to ask for the understanding. So what we do is we hurt them back. It's a way to give them back the pain that they gave to us. And really what that is it's really asking for understanding and wanting people to understand our pain and relate to our pain, but we don't want to ask for it, because if we ask for it, we don't want to seem weak and needy and pathetic asking for understanding. So we carry out our revenge so we could get them to hurt them back so they could see and understand our pain, because that's what we really wanted. So these are the things that justice is really about and is truly about. It's justified revenge and a tactic to hide our own evils by focusing on other people's. Why are you seeking justice?